Alrighty, we are live, just a few minutes late. I apologize for that this evening, folks, but we appreciate y'all being here with us tonight. It is, looks dark. Does that look dark yet?
You want it brighter?
Or is your screen?
It could be my, no, it looks fine. Just when you turn the screen,
Brightness on his
on
computer
your
up?
computer up, I was like, wow, everything looks really dark on my computer. Can I see what's happening? No, I can't see what's happening. Alrighty, folks, welcome to Bird Dog Chat with Ethan and Kat, or this evening, this is a throwback type of feel to an episode. It is Yawa. You ask, we answer on Bird Dog Chat with Ethan and Kat. See if I can say Bird Dog Chat with Ethan and Kat 3 more times, and then somebody will come out of the wall behind us or something to that effect.
Sure, that's weird. So if you guys are new to these live streams on Wednesday nights, we typically go through and roll through some check-ins as well as play Bird Dog Chat Bingo, and you can get your bingo cards from patreon.com/
Covering your face.
That's fine. It's okay.
Is that better? So it's like not covering your face?
I was actually fine with it the other way.
You liked it covering your face?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is kind of like covering my face down here.
Yeah. The no makeup facial, post-facial look. It needs to be here. Just stop. This is my microphone. Anyway, so we are doing Bird Dog Chat, or Bird Dog Bingo, excuse me. You got me all flustered. And you can get your bingo cards from patreon.com/ Standing Stone Kennels. There it is. Thank you, Charles. You can play for just $5, and that is a monthly subscription. Or if you want to support us in other forms, or in us to support you on Patreon, because if you don't know what Patreon is all about, it is a way for us to help you train your dog from home, answer questions, be live on your video consult type of thing when you're doing your training sessions, all of that. Super, super helpful if you are working through some training goals. What are you doing?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. Just keep rolling.
You're so distracting. When you do things on the computer, it's distracting to me.
Well, you know what?
So like Ethan mentioned, back to a throwback to our previous Yawas, we were thinking it would be fun to do a question-only episode where we don't have necessarily a topic of discussion, but we are going to answer as many questions as we can in this hour-long live stream. We are giving away a waterer from standingstonesupply.com. If you didn't know, we have a supply store, but we like to give away things from that supply store to our bingo winners. So the first person with a bingo tonight is going to win one of those awesome aluminum waterers.
I think you can find it in there, yeah. I think it's in a couple different categories. We've had some constructive criticism that people don't like things in multiple categories.
Water.
But sometimes they fit in multiple categories, so... These things are sweet. So they are 100% made out of aluminum, and they work great as a wheel chock if you need to get your trailer to stop rolling. They fill up with water. They hold 1.25, approximately 1.2 gallons of water. 1.25 is what we have listed there. It's a 1.25 gallons of water. The only real thing that you need to do with them is on occasion, fill them up with water, add a cap full of bleach, fill them up with water, let them soak. Rinse them out real good, and you're good to go again. There's not really any issues that we've ever had with them. You can fill them full of water, accidentally leave them outside. They will freeze solid. You might get a little bulge, but they don't break. The welds are the top quality. If you've ever seen any industrial kitchen-grade aluminum products, they're probably made in Norton, Kansas at New Age Industrial, which is where we have these made for us. So...
And they're awesome because they're tip down. They're basically a built-in water bowl right there for the dogs to lap out of.
Yeah, flip that over to...
I think it'll show one of the other pictures, maybe.
Well, at least...
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of the first one. Yeah, there you go. So
tipped up and then tipped down. So we need to get a picture on there of a dog just lapping out of it or something.
And that handle, it's basically that lip there. It actually acts as a handle. So you get to carry your little one... 1.5 gallon yupper.
1.25.
1.25er. And then you just tip it down. Dogs drink out of it. When you get done, you tip it up. It doesn't slosh water all over the place. So pretty sweet.
Okay, so let's roll into some check-ins quick because we typically do those, and then we'll move on to answering some questions. Checking in from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Central Missouri.
One thing I wanted to mention, because we had some questions about this before, the Bird Dog Chat Bingo category, right? Not category, the situation. You get your Bird Dog card, chat card, which what I was doing is I forgot to clear last week, so I went in, anybody that wasn't online, I went and cleared the old cards. But things that happen, I mean, they got to kind of happen. I can't say, oh, dear, I love you so much, and you take that as meaning deer tracking or something to that effect, which is a block.
Don't be stretching it.
Yeah, I mean,
take it for what it is.
You can stretch it a little bit, but you got to have some real justifications. Okay.
Okay. Northern Idaho.
Not picking, just clarifying.
Minnesota, Angleton, Texas. Springfield, Illinois, Pretty Prairie.
Woo.
Whoop, whoop. Cisco from Honor Point. Whoop, whoop.
Hey.
Southern California, Atlanta, New York. Hey, Mark and Sierra. Stony Creek in the house. Hey, Angelo. Iowa. We got, where else? Mid-Michigan. Southern Ohio. Alabama, Wisconsin, Utah, Minnesota, Maryland, Virginia, Marinette, Wisconsin, Alberta. There's our international check-in for you. Oklahoma, California, Atlanta, Northern
Kansas,
California.
You missed that one. Norwich.
Oh, missed one. Oh, you're right. And Vancouver, British Columbia, another international check-in. So awesome, guys. It looks like there's already some questions rolling in, as well as if we get to a point where things slow down a bit and we need to pull from some of the Instagram ones. I've got those pulled up as well to go over because
Colorado, South Dakota, they're rolling in.
People were already posting their questions on our Instagram story when we were announcing the live stream. And if you didn't know, some people don't follow us on both platforms, but we do also have Instagram. So go over there, follow us on Instagram as well. You'll see lots of cool stuff. But that was where we got some of these original questions rolling in from.
So it looks like Rick Jensen was rocking and rolling early. He says, question of the evening. First, number one. Here it is. Drum roll, please. I have an 18-month-old GSP. He gets 2 to 4 hours off-leash time per day. However, all he wants to do is play fetch. He's obsessed with the ball, and playing fetch is too much fetch, bad for him. Well, first and foremost, Rick, I would say take your ball and throw it away, but not away from your dog, just in the garbage can. It's the number one causing issue. I'm going to caveat this when I get done here, but it's the number one causing hard mouth issue causing retrieving object, if I can get all that spit out.
Okay, I was going, that was rough.
Okay, so anytime we see a dog that has an issue, it's one of two things. Squeaky toys, which most people are pretty in tune to that by now, but we haven't voiced our opinion loud enough, probably on tennis balls. It's been mentioned, but balls in general, they're small enough and they can roll and play with and chew essentially as they're retrieving, and that incorporates into everything. And if you're playing for 2 to 4 hours of fetch a day, which I know that's not exactly what you said, but you want to play a lot of fetch, all of those reps are going to build a very difficult to fix conditioned behavior of rolling, mouthing, chewing. Now, if you say Doug doesn't roll, mouth, or chew or do anything with the tennis ball, huzzah, but I find that a little bit hard to believe. I would strongly recommend that you move into playing fetch with bumpers. We utilize both of DT's soft mouth trainers and canvas bumpers, and it kind of just depends on your preference, which one you really want to go with that way. Or it's like a nylon. It's not canvas anymore. They used to have canvas ones, and I think they still do, but they primarily we primarily sell the nylon coated, covered bumpers. It seems canvas-esque, though. So going on to the rest of the question, it says 2 to 4 hours off leash time. Really wants to play fetch. Is it too much fetching to play? I mean, yes, anything can be overdone, especially if you're just throwing a ball. That's going to be creating this imaginary wall that he won't be able to figure out how to pass. And I don't know about you, but I can't throw a ball or a bumper too terribly far. And there are times when we shoot birds that coast out further, or, you know, maybe wild flush gets up, and I am not a purist. I don't only shoot birds at my dog's point. I'm kind of like to kill stuff. So it falls over this way, and boom, boom, there it goes. And, you know, the dog might be across the field, and it might be an 80-yard retrieve or a 100-yard retrieve. And when we do a ton of hand-thrown only type of retrieving setups, it builds it's a really strong conditioning. It builds an invisible wall, essentially, there that dogs have trouble passing. So I would recommend, especially if they love to retrieve, to start building in more advanced marking drills. That would be where we would go to begin with. And that's going to involve help or wingers or help, which would be optimal. But we've got several different videos on that, as well as if you check out Lone Duck Outfitters YouTube channel. He's got a bunch of videos and new videos coming out weekly that involve some of these marking drills. He has the ABC drill and some inline drills and walking singles, and I don't know, I can't even name them all. It seems like every day he comes up with a new name for the same thing, but it's all there and has fun names. So you could do the mom and pop drill, I think he called it. So I said, why do you call it the mom and pop drill? He goes, I don't know. That's just what it's called. Okay, got it. So great question.
Well, that's funny because speaking of Lone Duck and Nan Taylor have very similar questions, so I thought that would be interesting. So Nan Taylor said, check in from Central Missouri. If you picked a breed of dog with the goal of having a fantastic family pet, but the dog would never be hunted, what breed would it be?
Labradoodle.
And Lone Duck said, non-sporting dog breed you'd like to own someday.
Golden Doodle.
Golden Doodle. So we have a friend that has a Golden Doodle, Wrigley, and he is such a sweet boy. He's like a big old teddy bear.
I want to strike that. I would own Wrigley someday, not just a
not
Golden
just
Doodle.
any Golden Doodle, just specifically Wrigley.
Yeah, just Wrigley.
He's just like such a great little family dog. He doesn't get into stuff. I mean, he never chews things up. He's just a good old boy. He doesn't try and get on the counter. I mean, our short hairs, love them to death, but unattended, they would definitely get a little naughty. Whether that's chewing something up, counter surfing, getting into the trash, things like that.
Sure could. We've had a few that don't, but it's pretty on average they like to do stuff. So if left to their own devices, they're going to come up with something, and that something may not be exactly what you're hoping it would be.
Exactly. So the caveat of we would want a Golden Doodle if it was like Wrigley. And he's so handsome too.
Just Wrigley. Just Wrigley. I would say if there was another non-sporting breed to get into, maybe a Brock Francais. Ooh, I'm sorry. No, I'm just joking. That was totally
harsh.
I was a joke. It was a bad one. Non-sporting breed. What would anything else be?
I think corgis are really cute,
but
with their little
sporting
fluffy
breed.
butts.
They're cattle dogs. I mean, so that's working dog? That's not necessarily a sporting breed considered? Give me like a little Chiweenie or something like that.
Maybe.
If it's a non-sporting breed, it has to be a half-bred. That's the only ones I can come up with.
Okay, well, I think we answered that one to the best of our ability at this point in time. Aaron wants to know about your Guy with the Pink Gun channel, or forgot to ask on it. Have you noticed an increase in predators around your area with having more pigeons on your property now?
No, not really. So we only, outside of avian predators, we do have a good number of owls and a good number of hawks. And I will tell you right now, if something gets left out pigeon-wise at night, gets out with trap, I mean, the owls will pick them all off. They do not survive overnight outside of the loft. Now, we haven't had anything get in very recently. It has happened in the past. We had a coon get in one time. I used a dog-proof coon cuff trap thing, and we caught the raccoon the first night. I mean, it was kind of silly, but outside of that, I wouldn't really say. I mean, we get coyotes around fairly regularly, but
every once in a while we'll get a bull snake in the bird pen trying to eat a quail or some eggs.
Or, yeah, the bull snakes a lot of times will eat eggs or whole baby birds and then get stuck because they can't make it back through the wire. So, yeah. But no real increase in predators. We definitely haven't had issues. But speaking of the Guy with the Paint Gun channel, we have a new video that will be coming out soon about the habitat projects that I've been working on. Charlie helped drive tractor for a little bit. Cade, probably the biggest assistant tractor driver. I think he rode in the tractor with me for 8 hours this last weekend. And he just was like,
loving
more,
every
daddy,
minute of
more,
it.
daddy.
Yep.
And now he points to the tractor and just wants to go ride again. Like, dude, all we did was just up through the field. And he was like, I loved it.
You didn't hit any coyote holes with him then, because he might have changed his mind.
Yeah, he bounced his head off the ceiling.
But he did help you with the, you said he like lifted something and you made a whole pass without planting anything.
He reached over and grabbed the hydraulic and I didn't see, like, it's just right here. And I'm driving and he reached under my arm. Oh, sorry, hon. Reached under my arm and hit I drove around a little ways without the drill down. So that was fun. Mark Cross says, when Charles comes up here, a local bourbon is going home with him. Sweet.
I don't think Charles is going to say no to that.
Nope.
I won't say no to that.
I'm going to have to check a bag.
Hey, that's easy.
You were going to have to check a bag anyway.
I never check a bag when I go to Judge.
How do you fit your muck boots, rain gear, all the stuff that you might need?
Yep, got it all.
In a carry-on?
In a carry-on and a backpack.
And you have giant feet, so I don't know how you do that.
Well, I can fit all of my clothes in the boots. Because they're giant.
Okay.
That's awesome.
That's very...
You got to fly...
ingenious.
You got to fly with your business card, and if you fly American, you get free checked bags.
Well, I'll make sure I put the next flight on the business card.
Oh, shoot. I think you just can check the bags with the card.
I don't know. Well, it won't get you in the lounge on an extremely long layover. I found that
No.
out.
No. Mm-mm. We fly American a lot because you can hop down to Dallas pretty easy and go anywhere. So.
Well,
Where'd it go?
I don't know. It jumps sometimes.
It does jump sometimes when somebody comments at the bottom. Oh, there you go. It says a GSP blue tick, 4-month-old. What's your thoughts on exercise restriction?
Yep.
Chris William just got a GSP blue tick cross, 4 months old. What's your thought on exercise restriction? So it's an interesting question, and I think a pretty common misunderstanding, misinformation type of situation. First and foremost, I would say that puppies most benefit from mental stimulation. They do need exercise, but I don't think that I've ever been able to exercise a puppy enough that it really wore them out for more than a second or two. You know, like you take them, like even little puppies, like we walk.
And a lot of times they just self-regulate, right?
Yes.
Like if we're like, oh, we're going to drive down the driveway and you're going to run along, and they're like, yep, that's too much work. They just stop running. They just stop. They're like, okay, now I'm going to trot along.
And then I'll just lay down here or stand here or whatever.
Yeah, they just kind of self-regulate a little bit.
I would say.
But I would not be hooking them up to
Correct.
a roading rig or your bicycle or whatever and dragging them along. This is a free run where they basically get to choose if they want to keep running or not. We don't throw them on the treadmill and make them run for, hours on end or anything like that either.
So the restrictions that we would apply would be no resistance-based training and minimize any type of, like, even if I would put a 4-month-old on a treadmill if they're running on a flat surface, and only for for a shorter period of time, not ridiculous, maybe 10 or 15 minutes they could trot on a treadmill.
And just watch for their self-regulation,
yeah,
right?
If they start to act tired.
Yeah, or slow down, they're done.
Just don't push them too hard in a sense of doing
forced.
more. Yeah, doing more than what it seems like they're openly willing to. Now, there are dogs that overwork and can do too much and put themselves in situations, but typically not with our puppies. And our puppies are pretty like ready to rock and roll. So, but I think that it's important to put a big emphasis on mental stimulation and challenging their brain as much as you can. So,
I think we skipped over one on accident because the messages a lot of times will jump. The comments will jump. Like if I scroll, it's like jump, and then I'm like, oh, where were we at? But somebody was asking about what are the best things to do to wear out your dog and keep them in shape throughout the summer months.
Oh, that's great.
So we love swimming dogs in the summer. It's a really good opportunity to work them and to work them with like no impact, like resistance training without the impact training of running on hard surfaces. But you have to keep in mind that the water temperatures play a role. If it's the middle of the summer and it's a small body of water, that water temperature can be pretty warm. And if the dogs aren't getting out, they still don't have that evaporative cooling going on, and they can overheat in the water just like they could on land. So keep those type of things in mind. But swimming is a good one. Early morning free runs, roading, treadmill time, because that can be done in the air conditioning. Things like that are great.
We had somebody a while ago, and maybe they're listening and they can chime in and tell us if they still even listen to us. They were fairly offended, I think. But it was in regards to us talking about water temperature being an important part of things to pay attention to, essentially, in the summer. And basically it was commented on the fact that
thermodynamics or whatever.
That's what I was thinking, but I don't know if that's right. Anyhow, just the process of the water would be cooling no matter what temperature it is because it's water or something was the comment. And what we're saying is you do need to pay attention to the water temperature. And the other side of things that I did learn more recently is that the body can actually create a thermal barrier. And if it's completely submerged in water and the water is warm, and the body will like basically warm the water around you or warm the edge around you basically, and it won't allow you to cool or something.
But I would think that would have to be more stationary, because as soon as you start moving,
it moves
it
around,
breaks that barrier up.
But long story short, with the water aspect of things, the number one recommendation from an overheating standpoint that we got from the scientists, actually just head nutritionist and what is his role? I don't know exactly. Head nutritionalist for research and development and stuff, but basically heat related stuff. He said the number one thing to do if a dog's overheating is to submerge them in water, ideally cool water, whatever you've got. So, but that's talking serious, wobbly, too hot, can't get them, their whole body's wet. Maybe not their heads underwater, but the rest of their body would be good. Don't drown them. Oh, look at that. Little loft on the hill. We have to talk about that in a second. You see it says Northern California.
Okay.
I have two pigeons racing in his race.
Okay.
It's the world's smallest one loft race. He's got a YouTube channel.
Cool.
You can check in weekly, and you can see my birds. He's got them labeled on there. Guy with the pink guns, pigeons. They're the winners. He's got them already marked off winner. So,
jeez. Lone Wolf said that they're getting a Brittany puppy in 2 weeks, and someone anonymously paid off the second half of their puppy, which is awesome. Well, congratulations. They just purchased our online course.
Oh, that's sweet.
Awesome. Well, I hope it's very helpful for you.
Yeah, definitely let us know.
Anything else you want to say about your smallest pigeon loft race?
I don't know unless he's got something to add about how good my pigeons are doing.
Uh-oh. Maggie wants to know where your whiskey's at. Because they brought some.
They did bring some. It is inside.
It was a little bit of a rushed evening. We were lacking.
We were late.
Yeah, we were lacking our nanny care for the afternoon, and then getting boys dinner, boys to bed, boys moved over here.
And I inevitably screwed up and started with the clear stuff tonight. So
it was kind of crazy, which is also why we were late on the.
You can't swap back and forth in colors, and it turned out well.
But thank you for thinking of Ethan and bringing the.
We'll have to
whiskey.
rock that next week because I don't know if you saw it, Charlie. Got a bottle of Eagle Rare.
I found in a box unpacking 6 months later, like a giant, like 1.75
of Eagle Rare.
Yeah, it's like obnoxiously large. I traded somebody for it.
See, that's the I did that one time. I was like, oh, this is a much better deal to buy a 1.75 of what vodka is that? It's
Belvedere.
It's Belvedere, but that bottle is like 12 feet.
It won't even fit under the counter.
No, it's like
it's annoying.
This is dumb.
Yeah.
So I've got a little bottle, and I pour the big bottle in the little bottle so it can sit on the counter.
Yeah.
It's silly. All right, what do we got for real questions?
Dayla Snyder said, how do I stop the extreme mouthing and crushing during retrieves? I've been doing hold conditioning with my GSP, which has helped with holding the bumper the right way, but not mouthing.
It says, thank you, guys. I'll never play fetch with a ball ever again. Going to buy bumpers right now. Unfortunately, you just missed the spring sale, or you could have got 15% off all your bumpers at standingstonesupply.com.
Doesn't GDIY have a code?
They do. That is great.
Go listen to a podcast,
Go
guys.
listen to a podcast, and you can earn yourself a code for standingstonesupply.com. GDI, gun dog it yourself if you're not already familiar, which I bet a lot of people are listening.
And Ethan was just on one of their most recent podcasts. You
can
hear about
their most
woe
recent
training.
Yes. It's kind of funny. It's, what did he call it? The
Standing Stone.
Whoa. He called it the Standing Whoa, I think.
No, Standing Stone.
I think he called it the Standing Whoa.
Way to woe. I don't know. Look it up, Charles.
I'm looking.
Okay. I'm going back and forth.
The Standing Whoa.
The Standing Whoa. Yeah.
Whoa series number 5.
Well,
newest episode.
He said save the best for last. No, I don't think he actually said that, but I think I am last in the list there.
Anyway, let's get back to answering the question about the
sorry.
mouthing and crushing during retrieves.
It's a tough one.
So I've been doing hold conditioning with my GSP, which has helped with holding the bumper the right way, but not mouthing. So this is one of those situations where these bad habits are typically pretty well conditioned, and it takes just as much conditioning to undo them.
So I want to ask, I'm just asking, Dayla, what did you do the most retrieving with your puppy? Was it toys or balls or Kongs, or if you only ever used bumpers? I'm curious, and this is a situation not picking, just gathering information on what you've done thus far and kind of where this started. Now, I know that some dogs are just wound up, predisposed to try and mouth and munch and crush things. We've seen it before. I would say that of all of the dogs that I have, Thunder is probably kind of developed a little bit of that on some quail that is worse on ducks, and he never got to play with a ball. So it's not 100% thing, but I
think sometimes it can be excitement based.
Sure it can.
But anyway, typically, like I was saying, it's going to take just as much conditioning to undo that as it took to develop it. So I would, though you're doing your hold conditioning training, you're probably going to need the whole kit and caboodle of formal retrieving work and putting all of the pieces together. And that hold conditioning needs to be on a variety of objects, from fresh killed birds and bumpers and random things that your dog's going to be comfortable holding. And then that needs to be applied to those really high exciting situations, because that's typically when that mouthing, munching, rolling type of behavior is going to come back out again, when they kind of get into the moment and want to forget about all the training that they've just had and revert back to what they were doing. And that's when you need a super strong conditioned retrieve that you can hold them accountable through collar conditioning to that behavior.
The other thing that I would say is the harder mouth the dog is, the more rolling, mouthing, chewing stuff that goes on, the harder the retrieving objects we recommend that you use. So that would be hard PVC or a hard bumper. We have an old bumper that was like, what is that? Is that black thing still in there? The Extreme.
Oh, that really hard.
No.
I know what you're talking about. That hard black tubular, really hard bumper thing. But it was only like that big around. It was pretty small.
Yes, it was not very big around, but it was definitely not.
Stop.
There are a few things in there that are also bigger in diameter. So very big and soft also works.
Yeah, so those bumpers that are really big that we've got, I think it's like it's got to be more than 3 inches. It's probably a 5-inch.
At least.
Those are really good from the standpoint that dogs have to open their mouth so far to get that in there that they don't have the mouth to crush. The same can be said about naturally with birds. Typically, the smaller birds, like quail, dove, are going to be more easy to munch and chew, and they're small and tender and bite-sized, whereas those bigger birds, like ducks and geese, are going to be a lot harder for dogs to naturally retrieve, and they aren't going to have the jaw strength and everything to just be munching on that as they're trying to retrieve it back.
Yep, so bigger and harder are the best ways to kind of stop excessive crushing, mouthing issues. I would say with birds specifically, the number one issue that we have is quail. So if you have, people say my dog's hard on birds, what kind of birds are you using? Quail. My instant recommendation is to go to something bigger like a pigeon or a chucker or a hen pheasant or a
duck.
Yeah, ducks usually entice all kinds of nasty stuff too. I don't know why they do, and they're bigger. So there's the exception to this rule of try something different. But what we got next?
Just introduced my 3-month-old GSP2 pigeons from Brandon Welch. Should I let him chase them? Absolutely. We want your puppy to be excited about their bird introduction. We want them to not be afraid, startled by those birds. And we're inciting their prey drive at this point to mark, watch, chase down, grab, catch, and hopefully retrieve those birds for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yep. Do you have any GSP breeders that you recommend in southern Texas? I would love to get one of yours, but the waiting list is too long because you are the best. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know any breeders that we could recommend in South Texas.
That has litters or anything like that? You got somebody, Charles?
Where you just bred Muddy to Bone Forks Kennel.
Do they have any litters?
I think he just had a litter. Yeah.
Okay.
So
very rarely, so you're gonna have to. And then,
and that's the other thing. Like sometimes they already have wait lists as well.
Yep.
Pull up their wait list. He's not in southern Texas, so he's east of.
Not quite. I mean,
he's east of Dallas, right?
The only one I know in southern Texas is Renee.
Does she have any litters?
Yeah, she usually has 1 or 2 a year, but that's it too. So, and her,
does she have a website?
Her kennel name is very German, so I don't know that I can say it.
If you just on the end of it. Yeah.
I can pull it up.
No offense to anyone that's German here.
It is a harsh sounding language.
Gotcha. Depends on how you speak it.
Sometimes it sounds like you're clearing your throat.
My sister-in-law actually did some study abroad or something type of foreign exchange student in Germany. And she's like, no, that's not how you have to say German words. I was like, are you sure? Because that's the only way I've ever heard anyone speak them. And she's like, no. I was like, well, say some words in German. Oh, that's those.
That picture.
Yeah.
Dem Führerhaus. Gun dogs. That's how I'm saying it.
Haas. Say Haas.
Dem Führerhaus.
It's probably house. I don't know. Let's get Kayla on the phone. Ask her how to say that word in German.
I will say I looked her up personally, and she has a absolutely wonderful. If I can find it here, hold on. Where'd my cursor go?
We talked about this. She photoshopped that picture, but it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah. She's not hiding it either. Like some people when she posted it were like, ah. But I will say her cover photo is beautiful on the El Tesoro Ranch.
I was just say that looks like the work of Charlie. Did you pull up the bone fork?
Oh, yep, I can do that too. I think he has a website.
He does.
He does, yeah. So we bred,
and she may have a website too. I just
don't know what it is.
I'm just in the heat of the moment here.
But we bred Muddy to Zane. So
I'm gonna say it's not quite up to date. That's 2020.
Well, pull up Our Dogs and just click on old Zane. There's a bunch of good pictures there. We'll show that
on the top. It says Our Dogs.
Does that click? No. Go to the Our Dogs because he's got like a whole portfolio.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's a pretty picture.
Yep, there's Mr. Zane.
So that's who
Pop Tuck.
my dog was bred to.
Ski slope top line there. Unless he's standing downhill, then it kind of looks like it's a ramp.
He's got a big old head.
Yeah.
Those are the two I know of.
It's
2 more than I knew. So
you can reach out to them. That us saying that we know of these people. We've bred to Zane, but haven't really worked with or know Renee's dogs all that well. Charles has trained with her a little bit. But that doesn't mean that they have availability either. You know, they may have their own wait lists and things like that. So definitely would be a place at this point that you would just have to reach out to them to continue that conversation. So
Aaron, no Frenchies.
But goats, that is a great
That's a non-sporting
option.
breed canine.
That is a non-sporting breed pet.
Okay. Does it say pet or did it ask about dog?
Dog.
Pretty sure goats are not dogs.
They're kind of.
Last I checked. If it was a Chihuahua, it would have to be with a weenie dog so that it could be a Chiweenie.
Just because you want to say that.
Long-haired Chiweenie. No. This is my long-haired Chiweenie, and I would get a purse, a satchel, to carry it around.
I think there's only going to ever be one Chiweenie, and that's Aaliyah's.
It's a pretty cool little dog.
Yeah, I think that's it. There's never going to be another one. Backwater. You go look up her kennel. There's pictures of them all over.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, well, there it goes.
Okay.
Backwater? I don't know.
I have a 4-month-old male Brittany, and I'm wanting to start him on birds. He is already pointing robins in the yard and plan on using him for grouse and quail. I have access to birds from a bird farm. Should I start him on quail or chucker?
So first and foremost, stop the old robin pointing in the yard.
It's probably a sign that he's ready for more, though, and don't put emphasis on what he's doing in the yard on those robins and chi-chi birds. Time to move on to important stuff.
Unless you plan on large fines and spending time in federal prison for killing protected songbirds. Really, though, the visual orientation is something that's growing pretty drastically with today's versatile dogs or today's dogs. We see it a lot. We see it in some of our own dogs even, and it just needs to be discouraged, pull focus, redirect. So first things first, don't encourage your dogs pointing bugs or robins and discouraging and or redirecting is not going to hurt their overall bird drive or pointing desire. So that stuff's all okay. Do not encourage it. Next.
Quail or chucker?
Chucker, 100%. But it says for grouse and quails. Where are you
go down one comment? Because it's a two-part.
Because it must have cut off. So bird farm, should I start him on quail or chucker?
Chucker. Yep, 100%. The quail typically don't fly so good. And
we've talked about that before. If you don't have launchers to utilize birds in to control the flush and to make sure your birds are getting up, it is very important that you have very wild-like, good flying, strong birds so that when your puppy comes in and maybe makes a mistake or doesn't point as long as need be, they are not able to catch those birds, because then they're going to learn I can just crowd them, move in, try and bump them, and then catch them and ultimately get the reward I'm after. And then they're going to necessarily learn some bad habits, which is not staying steady on their birds.
Agreed. What do we got next?
Just Michael said, your videos are great. Thanks so much for sharing them.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Glad you enjoy them.
3-month-old GSP with a slight underbite. Will it grow out or is it permanent?
Interesting fact. If you are talking about underbite, meaning this would be the upper set of teeth, this is the bottom set of teeth, right? So if we're going, this is an underbite, the lower jaw and the upper mandible, I believe those proper terms.
Mandible?
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Or is it upper jaw, lower mandible?
Yes.
The mandible is the one that moves.
And I think it's maxilla and mandible.
So each
Anatomy.
portion of the jaws are independently inherited characteristics, but the bottom grows and moves more. So if it's already there, it isn't coming back. Per experience, speaking from experience only. And also can continue moving upwards of 7 to 12 months category. Don't quote me on the exact time on that, but it'll be like, oh, their jaw looks perfect as young dogs. And then 8, 9, 10-month-old, you see this even bite to slight undershot thing happen. So if you're already undershot, then no good. Now, if you're overshot, meaning the lower teeth here are behind almost too far and you kind of get this gap. Sometimes there's a gap in my teeth. That can
gap
grow
can
in
close
because the bottom grows more. The thing that we have to look at though is
narrow base.
Yeah, narrow base. So sometimes it can be narrower in the bottom than on top, and the canines will actually
on the bottom will go up under the roof of the mouth.
Bad deal.
Sometimes as a puppy, it'll be important to pull those lower canines, those puppy teeth, sooner rather than later so they don't get hung up and grow into the roof of the mouth a little bit.
And then that's where chewing can be beneficial, and I've heard that allowing the dog to chew on a tennis ball specifically can help that to grow out. I've never really encouraged that portion. We've seen it often enough to know exactly what it is, but it doesn't happen all that often. So maybe I can think of 5 dogs or 6 dogs maybe over the years that are overshot, narrow-based. Can you think of more than that? Maybe 5 or 6?
Not very many.
Now, in specific lines, again, things run genetically speaking, and where we saw it, we don't really do breedings with anymore. So but when we did we pulled those 2 canines on 8-week-old puppies, and most of them grew back in perfect. You never knew. There was maybe one that got screwed up, and that was Vex's sister that didn't 100% grow back in the way it was supposed to. And it doesn't affect her life, but just her teeth weren't perfect, kind of like mine.
Mm-hmm. This is an interesting question from Family Travel and Excursions. Do quail and pheasants have a similar scent? I have bought bobwhite quail to introduce my GSP, but would like to have her hunt pheasant, but they are more expensive to buy. So that's a great question. And we don't train the bird dogs here at the kennel on pheasants typically, maybe some tracks for NA prep and things like that. But primarily, we're training first on pigeons, then moving to chukar or quail. And those dogs go out to grouse hunt, pheasant hunt, and apply the same understanding to those new game birds. So I don't know if they necessarily have a similar scent profile, but just the understanding of that is an important bird and that scent recognition, because dogs have exceptionally good noses. And I wouldn't say that pigeons have any form of game bird scent, really.
No, definitely do not.
That's what we start all of them on is, moving from positive pigeons where they're not really using their nose but mostly their eyes, to then moving to those homing pigeons and launchers, kill pigeons and launchers, and then chucker and launchers. And that transitions well for them. So if you plan on hunting pheasants, you can absolutely still train with quail or chucker or something like that. And then they're going to be able to apply that same understanding of pointing and that this bird is important to those pheasants. Might take them 1 or 2, but they'll get it figured out.
Absolutely. And nothing will teach them about wild birds more than wild birds. And I think that on average, the pen-raised birds that you get kind of smell like bird poop because they're usually not very clean and they just smell dirty. They don't smell like wild birds. They just kind of stink.
That's honestly probably something that we overlook in our training process a little bit is, we're transitioning from pigeons to chucker and launchers, or maybe even quail and launchers, and we're utilizing the same launchers for both species of birds. So there's probably some residual. I know there's some residual scent left over.
100%.
So that's kind of a small little stepping stone, maybe.
I like it. What we got next in here? Some people up in here getting censored.
My 1-year-old will nip at my pants or shirt sleeves. I will yell at her no, and then she jumps back and starts barking at me like crazy. She stops the nipping. However, how do I handle the barking?
Sounds like she's interested in playing, though not doing it in an appropriate way. The nipping or pulling at your clothes, things like that, is an encouragement to entice play. And then once she's got your attention with you hollering at her, like any attention being viewed as optimal at this point in time, that's when she's getting the, like, oh yeah, I've got you now, let's play, and then barking to encourage play again. If you ever watch young dogs play, a lot of times they do that. They kind of tease at each other or jump and kind of nip at each other and then bark to entice them to come and play. So I think that's what she's looking for, is attention in that moment to play her way. And a lot of times what you could end up doing is just redirecting to a different task, like, hey, let's challenge your brain with something if that's possible at that time. You got anything to add to that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean.
So is that one still visible to everybody, or has it been censored?
No, just if you click to see it. Yeah. I didn't do that, but our other moderator took care of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually an interesting question. William Camp, I was told I need to milk my male unneutered dog to help him focus, comment. So I don't necessarily know about like the focus standpoint, but this is something from a health of the male dog standpoint, especially from a fertility standpoint that I don't want to say run into, but we think about and consider is an unused, unneutered dog can sometimes have lower sperm counts and motility issues and things like that. So cleaning them out once in a while, doing collections to make sure that they are staying as healthy as possible is really important.
Yeah, there's truth to the you don't lose it or you don't use it, you lose it kind of statement in this. And it's important for prostate health with the males. So it's on average, if they aren't being used here, monthly we would do collections. So as far as a comment in regard to focusing, I don't think it has anything to do with that. But as far as intact male health, it's not a bad idea.
Not really sure if I understand this question.
You skipped over one, though.
I did?
It's talking about warm water having heat stroke versus cold water.
I think that was
throw
just a
them into
comment
shock.
back on our...
Yeah, it was, but it's a valid point to bring up. So I brought up the same thing. I was like, I've always heard too cold of water could shock further, but there he's saying that like if the dog is in the state of the wobbly heat stroke, heat shock category, cooling them off is the safest and best thing for their body, period. So even if that's quote unquote too cold, too fast, or whatever that is, said their body needs to drop temperature. And it's not necessarily the colder water switch that's causing the issues in that from a shock standpoint. You're probably just already in the category of a shock, and it was coincidental. And they just ended up having a seizure from the heat itself, not the cold shock combo or something. Which, if somebody else has some good information on that, I'd love to hear it too. I'm always interested in learning. But this was the information that I was given, which was different, but from a very trusted source, if you will.
When is the next Bourbon and Bird Dogs episode?
Uh-oh. Speaking of Bourbon and Bird Dogs, as part of the evening Ethan and Charles' conversation when we get done with this was to figure out when and how we're going to continue the podcast. But the list is long and the days are short, so we're working on it.
Yeah, that sums it up really good.
Oh, shoot.
Only so many hours in a day, and they get eaten up quick.
It'll help. We get new helpers hired and here.
And we are in the ever-looking, ever-present hiring phase. I need an HR department. That's not me. Because that also falls to mostly my responsibility from a standpoint of scheduling interviews and starting that process. And then, of course, Ethan's involved, and sometimes Charles is involved and stuff like that. But going through the posting, screening applicants takes so much time as well. And there's only so many hours in a day. I feel like I get stretched a little thin sometimes. And I would much rather be videoing or recording podcasts than sitting typing on my computer interviewing people. So anyway, this is an interesting question. I want to hear your thoughts on it, Ethan.
Got it.
Brandon Vischer, do you have experience with Wirehair pointers? If so, what are some notable differences to the GSP when it comes to hunting?
There are no wait. No, that's not the answer. As far as differences between wire hairs and short hairs, I would say that probably one of the biggest is going to be harshness, essentially. They typically can be more fur-driven, depending on how they're bred. On average, they're bred. And they usually, and this is not picking, this is making generalizations, okay? Just like most Americans are fat, okay? It's enough
you
true.
went there.
It's enough true that it can be applied across worldwide, right? It's not 100% accurate all the time, but it's a thing that we deal with. So it's with the wire hairs, a lot of them are quote unquote harsh or have some like mean streak / aggression type stuff towards dogs. Sometimes people, but rarely.
Or small animals like kitties and things like that.
Definitely that, and more fur-driven. So you run into some things like that. You're probably going to get it's going to be the dog that most likely kills the skunk or the porcupine or the whatever, which our dogs also get into those, but it's more commonly so going to happen. They're more bred that way. Now, there are some folks, what's the name of those guys in South Dakota? It's like Dakota Wire Hairs or something. What's the name of they've got a little collective up there.
John Mueller.
Oh, yeah. I don't.
What's it called? Like, they have a collective.
Yep.
But I can't think.
Mid-Dakota Wire Hairs or something. Like, just search Wire Hairs in South Dakota. Anyhow, I know they specifically have.
They're trying to do it right change
right?
the perception and only breed wire hairs that have good temperaments and health testing and things like that.
Yep. Not that other people aren't doing it right, but they're trying to eliminate some of the specific things that I said to keep a wire hair with the coat, right? And so it's a wire hair, but then have less of the more traditional wire hair tendencies. So,
Schmieding, German Wirehair Alliance.
Yeah, that might be it.
Then they've
Yeah,
changed it
Greg
because it used to
Schmeeding.
be like pro. So so they must have split off. They had some falling out or something because it was like pro, Wirehair's pro or something. But it was John Mueller.
Yep.
I think.
And Schmeeding. And
Schmeeding.
it was all
Yeah,
those guys.
but
Yep.
I gotta look it up.
I don't know exactly. And you don't know it exactly, so we can't make blind assumption statements.
Dakota Pro Wirehairs LLC.
Got it. Yep. There you go.
Dang.
My brain works sometimes, okay?
On the most random things.
Well, you know.
I guess I do.
Oh, somebody has a bingo.
Oh, check it out. Check it out.
What's the bingo card number? Was that the first one? We got Jonathan Hubbard.
Let's see. Bring it up, Bubba. What's that one?
Guessing that's it 'cause it's the only one I see.
Oh, zoom in. Yep.
Mm-hmm. That is a bingo. If you can reference a card number for me, then all you need to do as the winner chicken dinner of this evening, John Hubbard, right? Jonathan Hubbard.
Yep. Right there.
Would be to message me on Patreon with your address and say, I won and I'm a winner. And then the card number. And then I will get you shipped out a
Waterer.
Standing Stone Waterer tomorrow. Or I won't, but Logan will. So.
This is an interesting question. Hi from the UK. My 8-month GSP loves retrieving soft toys in the house. It was good when she was learning, but now will happily bug guests to do it all day. Maybe time I took the soft toys away. So I don't necessarily think it's about the soft toys. I think it's about the behavior itself. And you should probably work on behaviors like place training when you've got guests so that it doesn't allow your dog to quote unquote bug them with the soft toys, to play fetch, to throw, because that behavior of pestering them to throw the next retrieve can easily turn into other behaviors. Like we were talking about this evening, that some dogs will pester for attention and they come over and they just nose under your hand and nose under your hand and nose under your hand. Like, hey, you should be petting me right now, or paw at you and paw at you and paw at you for attention.
My love.
And it's, so it's just any behavior that they're exhibiting, thinking that they're in control of the situation. Like, hey, throw me another retrieve. Hey, keep petting me. Hey, I want your attention. And they aren't the instigators, they are the followers. And so if we say, hey, I'm ready to play retrieves with you, awesome, but when I'm done with the game, we're done with the game, and you can go lay down, you can relax, and you can be content doing that. You don't need to try and control this resource and whatever the resource is, whether it's the attention, whether it's the retrieves, that's what we control.
It's great.
What kind of gin does Kat like?
Comes in a bottle?
No, it's not just a generic. I like that. I also like aviation gin an awful lot. New Amsterdam's good. Botanist, bootlegger. What was that new gin that I just tried? That Roku gin? That was really good. Mermaid gin. I'm not a big fan of like the super London Dry and some of the overly
Tangerine,
floral stuff.
normal
Like
one.
some of the Hendrix stuff can get really florally. What was that stuff that you got that was like? Yeah, the Hendrix Floradora or whatever. It's like drinking a
Liquid
bouquet.
potpourri.
Yeah, liquid potpourri. Not my thing. I like some of the other stuff that has more of like a citrusy aspect to it. So I know I threw out a whole list of what I like, and it seemed really long, but there's also probably just as long a list of what I don't like. But thanks for asking. Nobody ever asks me what I like, gin drinking wise or anything other. It's always all about Ethan and his bourbons, man.
Well,
I do know.
somebody commented a bunch of pictures of goats.
Someone had asked something, and maybe I missed, maybe we scrolled past it, about teaching to hold an egg. Where is that one?
Oh, yeah. What do you think about fetch with raw eggs for mouthing issues? I've literally never heard that, but it sounds like fun.
So it is a good little Easter thing. So the Missouri Uplands NABDA chapter did an Easter egg challenge to have your dog hold a raw egg. And so we got a couple dogs to do it too. So it's kind of a fun thing to proof for fun, but I don't think I would set a dozen eggs out there and see if they'd come back to you.
I've also...
That would be a fun one for the seminar. If we got dogs that are... Be a competition dog that holds it the longest.
You know what's even better?
Hot dogs.
Do it, yeah.
Ooh.
That's what I was just going to say.
Man, that will challenge you.
That is not only a trained retrieve, that is impulse control at its finest.
Breezy didn't even try.
She didn't even try and eat it?
No, she devoured it.
Okay, I was
Timber, Trigger, and Arrow all brought it back to me. Breezy ran down there and ate it.
Okay, I would have 100% guessed that Breezy would have ate it. That's why I was like, she did it? She didn't even try to eat it? Oh, she didn't even try and fetch it. Got it. Timber, though, like, bless that mama's heart. Like, she's too dumb to think that she could actually eat it. She's just gonna be like, oh, you told me to fetch? That's all my brain can handle. That's also like Snap.
Allie.
They're
my favorites.
They're so sweet and really good at what they do. They don't question things then, right? They just do what you ask. It's awesome. Oh, I have to tell a cute Allie story, actually. So Allie's finished with her Master Hunter titling, and Aiden has been bugging and wanting and begging and asking and pleading for a dog to sleep with him. And we were like, okay, I think it's going to be Allie that gets to be your little sleeping buddy because she's finished with her testing. She's very sweet and a nice, cuddly dog. And like we were just talking about, just like she's slightly on the more simple side in the sense that she's not going to try and get into trouble up in a little kid's bedroom. I mean, he's got toys, he's got stuffies, he's got everything known to man that you could get into. And we don't need some of our dogs doing that. So I was like, she'd be a great dog for him to cuddle with. Well, he finally earned the privilege of having a dog sleep with him by being well behaved with the dogs, listening, helping take care of them, things like that. And so she's been sleeping with him the last few nights this week, and she doesn't want to get up in the mornings, guys. She just wants to sleep in bed. And Aiden's actually been sleeping longer and longer as well. He got up at 8:30 this morning. Normally he's up between 7 and 7:30. And he got up at 8:30 this morning, sleeping in with his dog. But the other morning, he got up, came downstairs, and I'm like, you didn't bring Allie with you? And he's like, she won't get up. And I said, well, she needs to get up because she needs to come out and she needs to go potty and you need to let her out. And he's like, I was encouraging her to come out of my bedroom. I was trying to entice her and coax her out with one of my stuffed dog toys. And I was patting on her and patting on the bed. Come on, Allie. And she just wouldn't get up. And so I'm like, okay. So I kind of whistle up the stairs to her and no response. And then Cade mimics my whistle by screeching. And she still doesn't get up. And then I'm like, okay, Allie, I'm going to come up and get you. And Aiden yells up the stairs, Allie, you come downstairs this minute. And of course, she still didn't come down. So I literally went up and got her. And she was just hanging out on Aiden's bed. And so brought her downstairs. She went out and pottied. So she is definitely living the life of luxury and loving every minute of being her little boy's best buddy. So just a cute little story that I wanted to share.
We got
I know
questions.
It took a while.
We got time for probably one more each.
Okay.
I'll read that. There says I'm a charter captain, or do you want to pick some special ones? It just is the next one in line.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer that one.
Yeah, you do.
I am a charter captain and want to get a GSP and raise her on the boat. We fish often, and I'd love to get it to be able to put the fish in the box. Think it would be scared of the flopping fish. That is hilarious to think about, like a dog fetching the fish and putting it in the fish box. No, I definitely think that you could teach that, and it would just take time and conditioning. I wouldn't necessarily think that the dog would be scared of it. They just need an introduction to it, just like anything, a bird introduction, a fish introduction, that sort of thing. So, but when you get this figured out and your dog is doing this, I want a video of it because that's hilarious.
I'd wonder what kind of fish. Some fish are would be a little sketchy to pick up because of their dorsal fin, pokies.
Oh, right. I guess.
So it depends on the fish.
I'm just thinking of a walleye, man. Delicious. Touche. Probably not a chartered walleye boat.
Is
but
it
maybe
considered chartered if you hire?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Chartered.
Louis does that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So Annie, you're shaming me here. Yeah, I want to see this. We need more information, but I definitely
when
would
they
wanna
refer
see it,
to a fish box, usually it's a larger ship
That is correct.
or boat. Is it a boat or a ship?
Because then would you call it a live well
I'm on
most
a
of the
boat.
time?
Live wells. I don't know. I'm not a.
We're not
Sure person.
fishermen, obviously.
I'm on a boat. It says any advice on attempting to home
That
young
was the
barn
one that I was
pigeons?
like, I can't answer that. I don't know.
So Nate, with your young barn pigeons, it really comes down to how far are you trying to home them? So answer that real quick. That one said best shotgun for beginners.
Mm-hmm.
Best style of We're waiting for some barn pigeon questions.
Best style engager shotgun for a beginner.
Okay, so I would say from a safety standpoint, a break open gun is going to be the easiest to know it's live action or not live action, but get two things I would recommend. I would say if you're going to hunt with the gun, get ejectors, not extractors for the most part. It gets shells out of the way. If you're more comfortable with gun, just pulling them out is fine, but that would be extractors. They just lift them up so you can grab the shells that are spent. But then get a shotgun that automatically puts your gun back on safe when you break it open. That's a huge thing for me. Some of them do not, and then you'll slap close your break open shotgun that's off safe, and something horrible could potentially happen. I don't know, whatever. I would say semi-automatics are going to be a little more versatile if you're talking about doing everything. There was a question in there on that. Just because they do a better job, and I think we're sitting with one. Charles, you shoot your over and under at waterfowl?
Yep.
And I think Bob does. He's like, I'm an old man. I shoot my over and under at ducks and geese, and he's got 3-inch 2s that he's shooting out of this, and I'm like, God,
I don't do shoot though. I still shoot 2 3/4.
Oh, the big bad boys in my shoulder hurt. So, and that's out of a semi-automatic shotgun. They just do a little better job of recoil absorption or whatever, and they can typically shoot the third shell, so you can waste additional ammo after the birds are gone. Me personally, I have both. I prefer to train dogs with a break open. I prefer to hunt quail with a over and under, same thing as I'm training with. And then anything bigger that I'm going to try and attempt to shoot a slightly larger load. For example, pheasant hunting, I typically shoot 3-inch 6s and modified choke out of my 20 gauge to attempt to do a little better job killing, less chasing cripples. And then also waterfowl, I'll shoot the largest that we can. Most of the time, something more dense like bismuth, or we've even shot some tungsten because they sent me a case of it, but it's not something I would recommend anybody ever attempt to purchase on a large scale because it's ridiculously expensive. And you can kill the geese with lighter loads than tungsten. So all of that being said, this says less than 20 miles homing young barn pigeons. If you are going to home them over 5 miles, you probably need to get some form of homing pigeon stock. Barn pigeons probably won't make 20 miles. They will make 500 yards pretty easy. Maybe a mile, and maybe some of the better versions of those barn pigeons could make upwards of 5 miles. I don't think much further.
Mine really struggled at like mile 3.
Yeah.
And even when they did come back, it was the next day.
So what you need to be looking for with your pigeons, you start with young birds, you get them used to your landing board. Our gentleman, the little loft on the hill that we were talking about earlier, he has a really cool video showing how he uses a tunnel, basically, in the beginning stages to teach them to go directly to in where they are the most likely to get hit by hawks and things like that. It's kind of a cool video. You should check it out. But all said and done, once they start flying around, we call that loft flying, they will do what's called routing, and that's basically going out and searching on their own. And it's very interesting to observe this because I'm newer to actually flying quality homing birds, and as I've introduced really like my racing quality birds or racing rejects, birds that flew 500 miles or 400 miles but didn't win. Yeah, there you go. That's his page.
What you're talking about right here?
Yep. Yeah, so he's got that board there. He has another video about why the cage, if you go down.
There's this one too.
Yeah, so that shows the little tunnel, basically, that he just encourages birds, teaches them. It's kind of the most likely time to lose them is in the beginning, teaching them to trap. And this kind of allows you to increase that distance and everything else. So check those out. He's got some really good videos on there. But once they start routing, meaning they go out and search and look for new areas and then they don't come back for a little while, then you're headed into the direction where you can start getting on the road, trying to break out further distances, 1 mile, 3 mile. You're going to, at each station, you're going to need to fly them as individuals because that's how you will be training with them in dog training. And it's good just from a training standpoint. But you work your distances out and then see when you start to lose them. Know that the ones that make it, those are going to do a better job producing better birds for you if you want to attempt to do this off of barn pigeons. But most likely you're going to need the better quality birds. And what I was saying is I introduced my racing rejects and some racing extras and whatever into our birds. And now there is a group of birds that route drastically farther. Originally, we had primarily like feral pigeon, barn pigeon type category, and they would only fly a 100-yard circle around the buildings. And I put one of these GPS bands, put one of these little GPS bands on some of the better on birds and watch them fly. And they were routing like 4 miles away and then coming back. So that's how they learn. Like they're routing farther than what I think you can actually train your barn pigeons, which is part of how they learn their area and get better at being able to make it home. So all of that being said, I think we are done for this evening.
Yep.
This was fun answering questions. Mom was tired though.
I am tired.
And
but thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. I wanted to say we appreciate
it
that
very much.
And then Claire said, "My Beretta safety automatically goes back on." Mine,
ours does too. Yep.
Do.
But I know
so
that the
Frankie.
TriStar ones that we have do not.
Nope. So
and
we primarily use the TriStar with poppers, the 12 gauge with poppers for blanks. So a little less sketchy, but when we're out training, I like having that just additional safety. There's a lot going on. We're handling dogs, pushing buttons on transmitters, thinking about all these things. So having the shotgun automatically go back on safe for you is just one less thing that you have to be
take the extra time, save some money, and spend $1,000 if you can swing this. Spend $1,000 or more on your shotgun.
Oh, save some money.
Yeah.
Put money away to purchase
a higher quality
save some
shotgun.
money by buying you a cheaper shotgun.
No.
Gotcha.
Save your pennies and buy the more expensive shotgun.
You can spend $500 and buy a Stoger, and it'll last 5 years, or you can spend $1,200 and have one forever.
Yeah, this is very true. I mean, especially if you do any amount of taking care of it. Yeah.
Miss Kelly said, "Little boy with the big words." Yes.
Yeah,
he
no
literally
kidding.
was saying enthusiastically tonight. We were talking about something, and he was struggling with the word. He knew what the word meant. He was trying to get it out, but he was saying enthusiastically, and we were working on the pronunciation. But I was like, where does a 4-year-old come up with that word to use in day-to-day life? I have no idea.
His mom.
Maybe.
I have Frankie, 20 age. That's awesome. And we shoot the silver pigeons. So similar category. What do those Frankies cost? $1,200-$1,500?
For the SL is like $1,600. The really lightweight one. Yeah. But you can get I don't know what they are now, but I think at the time it was like, $1,200-$1,300 for the normal one. And
it's like maybe a couple $100 more for the silver pigeons. They're not much more.
Yeah, I think the SL and the silver pigeon are similar in price. I just liked it because it's a pound lighter than the silver pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I like it.
Awesome, guys.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. We love you all. I'm the guy with the pink gun.
And Kat, the dog trainer.
We'll see you next week. Are we not here next week?
I think so.
We'll see you next week. And if we don't, we don't. But we will.